Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today we have another hand from a $2,000 buy-in live tournament that again illustrates how to play a marginal made hand. This time though, I have a marginal made hand with a pretty good draw. So we're facing a 300 chip raise from the button, which we're very deep, 300 big blinds, with pocket tens in the big blind. And this is a spot where I think a lot of people 3-bet, and there's nothing wrong with 3-betting to 1,200 or so. You don't want to 3-bet small to like 750 because then you're giving your opponent great odds to call in position. So do you really want to play any hand from out of position against someone who has a presumably reasonable hand? Well, the answer is no, right? So if we are going to 3-bet, we want to make it about 1,200, and that's at least going to cut down on our opponent's odds. But we're still going to get called a lot, and a hand like tens is going to be an under pair a lot of the time on the flop. So do you really want to have an under pair a lot of the time on the flop, out of position, playing deep stacked? And the answer is no. So I do a lot of calling in this spot with tens, nines, eights, sevens, etc. And that leads to me not 3-betting a ton early in the tournament, but I think that's actually okay because it minimizes the medium and large pots you end up losing, and the times you end up losing a lot of these pots are when you are going to be out of position. So I like calling. 3-betting's fine though, as long as you're making it big enough. Here's a good example of this, right? Say I did 3-bet and the opponent called. Now I would have a marginal made hand, right? Because if I bet and get called or bet and get raised, I'm certainly not happy. But I do have the best hand a lot, so it's a very dicey spot to navigate. And you probably just want to do a lot of check calling in this scenario. As the just pre-flop caller, though, I'm definitely going to check the flop. I'm not going to lead here ever, because if we lead, our opponent's never going to fold a bigger club, our opponent's never going to fold a queen, and our opponent's never going to fold a flush. And they're going to start folding out a lot of hands worse than mine. Like say they have pocket sevens with no club, they're just going to fold immediately, and they're playing perfectly, right? Or if they have ace of diamonds, five of hearts, they're just going to fold immediately, and they're playing great. So leading does not make sense. We're just going to check. Now the opponent bet's tiny. It's an interesting small bet. So should we call or raise? The problem with raising is, again, when we do raise, when we get called, we're going to be against big clubs, queens, sets, two pair, and flushes. And I don't think that's where we want to be. So I think in this scenario, we just want to call, recognizing that we have a marginal made hand that just wants to get to the showdown. When you have a marginal made hand, even if it has a draw, usually the goal is just to get close to the showdown. All right, turns an 8, we check. Opponent now bets 600. Once he bets the flop and the turn, you have to start to think he either has a pretty good hand or just a very junky hand. Usually the junky hands here, though, have a club of some sort, usually a good club. Like say he raised king of clubs, 7 of diamonds. That's a hand that you can bet the flop and then just keep betting the turn with. So I think we're going to be against a lot of queens here, a lot of flushes. Sometimes jack 10, although that's not too likely given I have two tens in my hand. Could have 9-8, right? He could also still be value betting a little bit thin with a hand like ace 9 or jack 9 or something like that. So my hand's definitely too good to fold here. This is one of these spots where usually my pair or my draw is good, but sometimes neither are good. Like when the guy has ace of clubs, queen, right? There's actually a memorable hand that's just coming to me. I'm trying to tilt myself, apparently. It was heads up in the Sunday Million. This must have been 15 years ago, where I had something like middle pair and a bad flush draw. We were heads up, and I think I had like 10-5 or something, where I think the board was like jack 10-3, 3 diamonds, and I had like the 5 of diamonds, right? And we weren't very deep stacked. I remember thinking, all right, I'm just going to get it in. Either my pair's good or my draw's good. And it turns out the guy just had like top pair, top kicker with a nut flush draw, and I was basically dead. Then I didn't win. But hey, we were heads up, so that's okay. So now that we had a flashback to a random hand from 15 years ago, in this scenario, I am going to call. I learned my lesson, just call. River's a 3. I check, and now the opponent bets 2,100. He pots it. Man. So we were actually feeling okay up until this point, because now when the opponent bets big again, well, for the first time, he's probably either going to have a very good made hand, like two pair or better, or a busted draw. The nice thing about this spot, though, is that I don't block the ace and I don't block the king, which are the two very obvious flush draws that would bet. It is a bit of a bummer that I block Jack or King 10 and 10-7, but that doesn't matter all that much, I don't think. So this is a spot where you have to figure out how wide is your opponent value betting and how wide is your opponent bluffing. If your opponent will take literally every ace of clubs hand, bet the flop, bet the turn, and bet the river like this, which I think some players will, then you need to be calling at least sometimes with your bluff catchers. The problem starts to arise when the opponent's value betting very thinly. So if the opponent's only value betting 2-pair and better, we're going to have a pretty easy call. Because in this spot, we need to be good a third of the time. We're probably going to be good more like 40-ish% of the time. If the opponent has enough ace-high flush draws that miss that are betting. If he has king-high flush draws that miss, then it becomes even better. But what if the opponent is betting with pocket aces, pocket kings, and any queen? That's when it gets really rough, because then the opponent just has way more combinations in their range that I lose to. That said, I think that in this spot, we're going to have a pretty nice call spot. We're really not losing much in this scenario besides, like I said, 2-pair and better, which, he could have all the 2-pair and better, but at the same time, it's very easy for him to raise the button with any ace. And if he's raising any ace, it means he has all the combinations of ace of clubs blank. And against that range, I think I'm in a good enough spot to just call. Again, this kind of goes back to the previous hand I made for Poker News. Go back and watch that if you have not already. Where when we have a marginal made hand and we've only shown weakness, remember I just called pre-flop, just check call the flop, just check call the turn, I didn't raise at any point. That will induce people to bluff. So when you've induced people to bluff, well, you need a hero call. So I do call. Ooh, and we lose to a nasty one. Pocket threes, no club. All right, well, so this time it did not work out, but in this scenario, clearly the opponent was drawing very dead. He had exactly one out going to the river. And that's fun. That said, I still don't mind my call. I mean, obviously when the opponent does get there with a set on the river that doesn't complete the flush, of course, he's going to value bet. So you can't feel too bad about this one. Whenever your opponent is drawn to one out, you let him draw to that one out. Also notice that he did bet the flop and he did bet the turn. So this is a spot where the opponent very easily could have been betting this, planning to triple barrel. Now, I don't think this is a good triple barrel hand at all. I think the best triple barrel hands, like I mentioned already, are the ace of clubs and the king of clubs. But some people just take no equity hands and bluff them for fun. And, well, every once in a while, no equity is not actual no equity. It's only, whatever it was, 2% equity. Is it 2% equity? Yeah, I guess so, something like that. Sometimes they get you. And when they do, don't worry about it. Stay sane, stay calm. Realize 2% of the time comes in sometimes. So do not think that you're supposed to win every single time that you're the favorite. That is a very important lesson that you must fully understand if you want to succeed at poker, because you're going to have big upswings and big downswings if you just play enough. And if every big downswing completely wrecks you, well, you're going to get wrecked eventually. So realize that's going to happen. So prepare ahead, keep a big bankroll. If you've not already, check out my bankroll Bible at jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. There we have my bankroll Bible. It's about 20 pages on bankroll management that will get you up to speed so that you are properly bankrolled for the inevitable times where you go on bad runs and get one outer on the river 5 or 6 times in a row. It'll happen if you play enough. Get ready. So that's me for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Good luck in your games. Have fun. Check out the Bankroll Bible. Again, jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. And let me know what you think on Twitter at JonathanLittle. Good luck and have fun. I'll talk to you next time.